Yeah. All right.
Well, I couldn't find anything.
Hello, Councillor Kale.
Hey there, good evening.
Hello, Michael. Hello,
Hey,
Rob.
everybody, good evening.
Oh, Rob's walking down the hall. He's looking like he's trying to find a place to connect to the audio.
Yeah, I think I got it.
Oh, you got some Christmas decorations in the background.
Yeah, there you go, Rob. You got the #1 Christmas decks now.
Yeah, got to
Oh,
make
Oh,
them
very,
maybe
very
so.
festive.
Oh,
Look at that.
Michael's oh, nice little town. Yeah, that's
Yeah, well,
beautiful.
the other room actually has been taken up by Diana and the Garden Club Zoom meeting. So
Oh, lovely.
Oh, yeah, their party.
I've
Well,
been
try not to be
displaced.
too
been
boisterous.
Yeah, I told them to keep the volume down.
Hi, Bonnie.
I got word from Councillor Nicholson that she's having some computer issues, and she said to please go ahead and she'll join in when she can.
Okay, well, that's very lovely of her. And are you all ready to go home?
Yeah, I'm just
Who else did we
admitting
miss?
a couple members
Oh,
of the public.
There's only
Okay.
4 of us, 5 of us. Yes, there's 5 of us. Sorry. Yeah.
There's only going to be 6, so we're pretty
Yeah.
close. So are you happy to go ahead then, Hope?
I am happy to go ahead.
Okay, well, welcome everybody, and thank you for showing up. This being the last council meeting of 2021. So
We hope.
yes, we hope. Yeah, subject to change with notice.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you very much, everybody. And this is the agenda for the regular council meeting of Monday, December 13th, 2021. And we acknowledge with gratitude that we live and work in the traditional unceded territory of the Squamish Nation, whose people have been stewards of these lands and waters surrounding Nukwalakwam, Bowen Island. And the first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Late items, Hope, we have nothing on this one, do we?
There are 2 items for
Were they for the close though, or?
No, 2
no,
letters.
there's 2 letters from the public regarding the encroachments item, which is, I believe, is item 8.2 of the agenda.
Okay, well, I have to go search for those.
Came out around 4 o'clock or so, or maybe 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
Sorry, regarding item 8.3.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, 8.1,
8.3.
8.3.
Okay, thank you. All right, and the first thing, the approval of the agenda then, does anybody have anything else they'd like to add or omit, clarification, anything else on there? I see no hands, so I will approve the agenda by consensus. We'll move on to public comments. Hope, do we have anybody in the wings?
There are no registered speakers for tonight.
All right. Then we're going to move on to the consent agenda. And the consent agenda, does anybody have anything in there that they'd like a little bit more clarification on? Allison, what have you got?
3.4.
3.4. Okay, is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else? I'll ask Maureen when she comes in if she has anything. And for the time being, we'll leave it at that. Is everybody happy with that? The recommendation is that council approve the items as outlined in the December 13th, 2021 consent agenda as amended. I'll move that.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Michael. All in favor? Aye. Thank you all. Okay, we'll move on to the items removed from the consent
Can
agenda.
we
So
add that to the agenda where Patrick will be here? He's got item 8.5 or 8.3. So could
Just
you
ask
put it
him
in
if
after
he's going.
8.3?
Oh, I see. So you want to put it in there?
Yeah, because
Okay.
Patrick's got to be here to answer the questions and he's not here.
Yeah, okay. And so we'll probably, what we'll do is we'll just add it before he gets into the other part of it there.
Just put it after 8.3.
After 8.3, sure. Okay, thank you. And that was 3.4. All right. Sorry, did we move and second that and everything? Got that through?
Gary,
Yeah.
Gary,
Rob, go
just
ahead.
maybe 3.3 on the, just a clarification question on 3.3 of the consent
Okay.
agenda.
Okay, you want to do that now then, Rob?
Yeah, just a question about the writing, third line down, that council designate Daniel Martin and Judy McLeod as deputy approving officer for the Bowen Island municipality, and so asking that both of them become approving officers, and that Mayor send a letter of appreciation to Judy McLeod expressing council's appreciation for her service over the past 10 years and congratulations on her retirement. So if
Yes.
she's retiring, is she still our approving officer, or is that just am I not reading that correctly?
No,
We
I
just
think we're moving
wanna-
that over. Liam, go ahead.
We just want to keep her as deputy approving officer
Oh.
for the duration. We don't want that to expire tonight.
Okay,
And who knows, maybe we'll get to hang on to her for longer than we anticipate.
okay, thanks for the clarification.
Yeah, Rob, she's retiring effective Christmas. So there's sort of a 10-day period for her to finish up stuff.
Got it.
Okay, thanks, Rob. And okay, delegations. Hope.
Just a minute, since Rob pulled that, I will move the recommendation. The
Oh, yeah.
council designate Liam Edwards as the approving officer for the Bowen Island municipality, that council designate Daniel Martin and Judy McLeod as deputy approving officers for the Bowen Island municipality, and that the mayor send a letter of appreciation to Judy McLeod expressing council's appreciation for her service over the past 10 years and congratulations on her retirement.
Yeah, I'll second
you.
that. It's-
Okay, thanks, Rob. All in favor? Aye. Okay, that's great. Thank you, everybody.
We should have
And thank
pulled it
you.
just to publicly thank Judy, actually.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Judy, but she's probably not listening, but thank you, Judy, for years and years of service. She's done a great job for us. Okay, so no delegations, no business arising from the minutes, bylaws. The Bowen Island Municipality Loan Authorization Bylaw number 555/2021, and that's over to you, Hope Dallas, Corporate Officer. Thank you, Hope.
Okay, I'll be pretty quick on this item. It was brought forward for first reading at the October 25th regular council meeting. And it was subsequently noticed that the schedule that was included with the bylaw was incorrect. It included properties that were in the Sealy Park neighborhood as well. So we've revised the schedule and we're just bringing it back and are seeking first, second, and third reading. And then it'll get sent off to the province and for review, and then to the inspector of municipalities for approval, at which time we'll bring it back for final consideration and adoption.
Okay, that would be wonderful. Thank you, Hope. Any questions for Hope? I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Allison?
Are we going to remove the word debentures?
We can, yep. I can happy to
Because
remove
there
that.
won't be a debenture.
No, there won't. So, yeah.
So it should just say the maximum term for which this loan may be issued to secure. The maximum term for this loan for the debt created by this bylaw is 5 years.
Yep.
So delete for which debentures may be issued to secure it.
Oh, yeah.
It just says the maximum term to
Yeah,
secure the debt
and-
created. Yeah.
That's in
Section
1.4, right?
1 point,
Yeah.
yeah, 1.4.
Okay, if you got that, Hope?
I do.
Okay, thank you. So the recommendation is the council rescind first reading of bylaw number 555/2021, cited as the Bowen Island Municipality a loan authorization Tunstall Bay Water Reservoir Tank bylaw number 555/2021, and the council read bylaw number 555/2021 a first, second, and third time as amended.
I have
I'll
a
move
question.
that. Yeah. Okay, hold on. So do I have a second there, please? I thought I had Michael. Okay, thank you. I got Michael as a second, and further discussion, go ahead. Sue Ellen?
I'm just wondering, don't they usually have a different number? Like we've just rescinded first reading of 555? And does it have to be a different number, or is it okay the way it is?
You mean a different bylaw number?
Yeah.
No, it's the same bylaw number.
Okay, it's just fixed. Thank you.
Thanks, Sue Ellen. Okay, so then we're gonna move on to,
Hang on, Mr. Mayor,
yeah,
any more discussion or shall we vote?
any more discussion on that? Allison, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Sue Ellen's comment, maybe we have to, the council reread bylaw number 555/21 a first time and read it a second and third time as amended? Because we are rereading it a first time if we're rescinding it, aren't we?
Over
I don't know. Hope, what do you think? Does it matter?
It's just really a matter of wording. It's we've always just done rescinding and then rereading or reading it as amended. So I'm happy with the wording as is.
Okay, that's fine. I'm happy then.
Okay, thanks, Allison. So I'll ask the question, all in favor, aye? Okay, that's great. Thank you, and then we'll move on to the Crown Land Referral. Do you, have you heard anything from Maureen? Hope, any update?
Nothing further.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go on to the Crown Land Referral, CLR 01/2021, 413 Bowen Island Trunk Road, Union Steamship Company, lease renewal. And that's over to Daniel Martin, Manager of Planning and Development, dated November 29th, 2021. Daniel, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I will just start a short presentation I have here. Okay. So we have received a referral from the Ministry of Forest Lands Natural Resource Operations for a commercial lease due for replacement. So it was a 30-year lease and it's for replacement for another 30-year term. And the referral is for the Union Steamship Marina, so 431 Bowen Island Trunk Road. So this is covered in the report, but the marina consists of a number of different operations. So 150 berths, an office and shower house, floating house, workshop, float homes, walkway, boat launch. And then it details a number of wooden pilings and steel pilings. Crucial for our staff review was reviewing the operations of the marina compared to the land use bylaw. So the marina itself is in the WC1A zone, so that pink zone. And it was most recently amended in bylaw 461, adopted by council in 2019. So the bylaw permits a number of float homes and floating attached dwellings. There's a maximum floor area and height and conditions with that zoning, and a condition of the rezoning, the applicant entered into a covenant and an affordable housing agreement. So staff determined the Union Steamship is operating within the terms of their zoning. But the one note that staff did make on the referral is just that the management plan provided as part of the lease includes a section on waste collection, treatment, and disposal. And staff would be looking for the management plan to be updated to address impacts from villages, gray water, and sewage. So the report notes that Snug Cove itself has frequent high E. coli counts. Although the source is not determined, staff would look for any operations in Snug Cove to update management plans to address any possible leaks or contamination. And so we would ask that as part of this referral as well, that be put in place. So The staff recommendation is that whereas we've received a referral for this Crown land application, and whereas it's to replace an existing lease with a renewed lease, and the proposed uses are consistent with the land use bylaw, staff recommend council has no objection to the application for the replacement lease, but subject to that updated management plan to address that wastewater component. So that's what I have, and I'll stop sharing there.
Okay, thanks, Daniel. Just a couple of issues on here for clarification. One on the ecological consideration. Obviously, there's a lot of other influences in Snug Cove that have driven this, have driven up the E. coli count levels in Snug Cove. I mean, it's not necessarily them. So you don't mean by that that they should do a separate, at this point in time, do a separate environmental, comprehensive environmental plan?
No, I mean, what we're asking for is that management plan. I mean, so I think, yeah, the ecological considerations is deeming it comprehensive environmental plan, but I think really what we're looking for is that management plan that's part of any lease application. So it was provided to us as part of the, as part of that package. It's in your referral package, has a management plan in it. And so we would look for that section to be updated to say, you know, what steps are being taken to proactively and anticipate any leaks or check for leaks or make sure that the contamination isn't getting into Snug Cove. And that's something similar we would be asking of any other sort of applications in Snug Cove or runoff going into Snug Cove, knowing that, you know, we hit these high E. coli counts, we can't determine the source, but that we would want to know that all of the possible sources in Snug Cove are being inspected and monitored.
Okay, so that's section 3.5 then, isn't it? Like we already talked about that. And so if they were just to do that separately and send it into Flinro or send a copy to us into Flinro, my concern is this has been 3 years in the making, and I don't want to put anything in the recommendation that is alarming to Flinro. So if they could clean that up, would that be all right?
So I think, I mean, from the staff point of view, when we do these, we either do them, you know, like that council recommend not proceed because we want to see this piece of information, which means essentially like put it on hold, wait until we receive this, we review it, we bring it back to council, and then we'll get a recommendation to proceed. Instead, we've worded it so that we say, in general, we'd say, okay, like with any replacement lease, you know, it matches the zoning. So we have no objection, but in this case, we're flagging it for the province to say, but we'd like to see that updated. But that we don't, you know, like, but the council isn't expecting to have it back. Council's making the note to the province, expecting the province to ensure something gets updated, but not asking for the return of it.
Yeah, I'm just looking for some clarity in there, because the way it reads now is therefore to be resolved that council has no objection to the application for the replacement lease, subject to an updated management plan to address impacts from bilge, gray water, and sewage. Well, we know they're on code-based sewer. Hi, Maureen, welcome. And the bilges would be, you know, that's the boats that look after that. And the gray water all goes into the sewer too. So what I don't want to do is alarm Flinro, because this application has been sitting for 3 years. And if they see something like, they might not understand that we just want that one section updated. And I wonder if we could change the actual recommendation to just update that one section. Would you be happy with that, Daniel, or not?
That can work. I can also, I mean, I can speak to the land officer handling the application. And I think I would, regardless, to let them know, you know, what the council decision is and what the expectation is. But if you have, you know, if you have alternate wording, you want to sort of highlight that section, that the council can make that motion instead.
Okay, let's see what the general feelings are here. Allison, go ahead.
So with the resolution, the last lines, I think it needs to say, therefore be it resolved that council advise Flinro that council has no objection for the replacement lease. And then I have some concerns about an updated management plan. The only thing they have any control over is the float houses that are hooked up to the sewer and the liverboards that are hooked up to the sewer. They have absolutely no control over what a boater does with his bilge or with their gray water.
Correct.
And their gray water from the the main float house where the office and everything is, I'm assuming goes right into the sewer. So you can't, I mean, you can tell a boater not to empty, you know, to use shore toilets and things like that, but we don't have the ability to go around and seal people's toilets and make sure they've got holding tanks, and the province doesn't do that.
No, agree. Any,
So I don't know how they can address impacts from bilges other than signage.
okay, Liam, I see your hands up there for clarification.
I think what we're looking at here is a relatively straightforward fix. In section 3.5 of the management plan, which Daniel showed earlier on screen, is a specific.
There is no 3.5 and waste collection treatment.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is the
sewer.
section. Okay,
Well,
so here, let me.
Sewer and gray water.
So section 3.5, which says waste collection, treatment, and disposal. All we're looking for is some acknowledgement and identification that sewerage is provided to the float homes and whatever other services are provided for other waste. So there's good language that's already captured there around the solid waste with the bins and the pickup, but there's no information about the sewer management. There is earlier in the application, in the description piece, it does speak to how the float homes are actually connected to the sewer, which is great. But then one would think that, okay, well, why is it not picked up in this section 3.5 here? And so we're just looking for that consistency and to have that identified, and nothing more, nothing less, not complicated.
I think, Liam, just with that, some discussion about, you know, what maintenance takes place or what checks are in place or how is it monitored?
Yeah, so it's like something to the effect of that float homes are connected to the municipal sewer system, and the ongoing regular maintenance and inspections take place. So something as simple as that. Just wanting to make sure that it is captured.
Okay, but the float homes don't have bilges.
No, but they're, you know, the boats have bilges, but don't worry about that.
Yeah, so,
you can
but
do
you want a management plan to address impacts from bilges.
Well, you can't have one.
So, and I say it's subject to an updated management plan to address impacts from sewage as described elsewhere in the application.
Is that what you're recommending for a change in the resolution? In the recommendation?
Yeah. I mean, I don't, they can't come up with a management plan to address impacts from bilges other than proposed signage.
Yep.
So is,
do you want to put just subject to updating section 3.5 of the management plan?
I like what Councillor Morris.
Take bilges out of there?
I think Councillor Morris had a good comment there too about changing the language to say subject to an updated management plan to reflect. Councillor Morris, you had it there, but basically to identify. It acknowledged that it was already identified in the application, but just further
updated
clarification.
management plan to include.
Can you see my screen here?
Yes.
Yep.
This is what Councillor Morris had said. To address impacts from sewage as described in the application.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are we happy with that?
Can you put
In
section
section
3.5?
Yeah.
In section 3.5 of the application.
Updated management plan in 3.5. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you can take bilges out of there because we don't, yeah.
Sorry, Hope, it has to change because to address impacts from sewerage as described.
Put section 3 in section 3.5
Ahead
right
of,
after management and an updated management plan at section 3.5.
Sorry. Subject to an updated management plan.
Subject to an updated management
Of
plan
section 3.5.
at section 3.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
And then they
Subject to
can,
an,
between
Up.
management and 2. Okay, click on in there.
Yeah, okay, so subject to an updated section 3.5 of the management plan.
There we go. Yeah.
there you go.
Okay. Stop sharing.
Because I think we're all in agreement that we don't need to see any additional work effort here, but
Yeah.
rather just being clear about what is currently being practiced. So,
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, Sue Ellen. Allison, that was yours. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sue Ellen. And then Maureen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say I'm glad with this. I'm happy with this recommendation. I support it. My concern is more the water quality, and with the public beach in Crippen Regional Park right there, and wildlife using the area, and all kinds of members of the public around there, and the kayaking businesses. And so I support clean water, and I think there needs to be a management plan can also speak to education or agreements with their tenants. I imagine there's all kinds of things that I'm not as familiar about, but I like the idea of an updated management plan to address the impacts from sewerage. And I don't think, I like the grid down the middle of the walkways too, to bring more light into the base of the seafloor. I have a couple of questions. One of them is, has Metro Vancouver Parks been consulted too? Would they have got a notice as well?
I would not imagine so.
Okay, because they're a neighboring landowner and they have an agreement. And I've noticed that there's that standing dead tree that's out there on the beach, won't be up for much longer because the beach is actually eroding back. And I thought they might have something to say about it, because their shoreline, a public shoreline, is being changing. I don't know if that's due to the breakwater and the configuration of the layout or not, but I wondered about that. I wonder about the number of berths. I see it says up to 150, and which I think is the same language as in our development permit for this development permit area, and that's 150. But I see there's a letter here from Oitis, sorry, earlier about over 170 boats and vessels that are in our care. This is related to COVID back in March 2020. And is that because that includes the 20 transient boats, or I'm wondering why the number is different? Oh, I'm seeing Oitis nodding. Yeah, okay, thank you. And I'm wondering why we didn't reference the development permits that we have. It's in a development permit area, which is sort of part of the official community plan, although it's not in the most recent one because it was missing from the planners that were working on it at the time. And but we have 1790 and then more development permits issued in 2008 and 2015. And so I just wondered, is it something that the province is not concerned with? Because the development permit area does incorporate that part of the seabed as well, according to my files.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would just typically, when we get the referrals, we reference the zoning, and that's what the check is based on, and what the province is curious about. Is it consistent with the land use bylaw or our zoning? And so that's why in our review and report and motion, we reference the zoning specifically.
Just the zoning?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. This just helps me. And then I'm interested in, oh yeah, I see, you said earlier. Okay. And then in the dimensions, could you go to your slides again and show us the aerial photo where you show the outline? I was just wondering if the dimensions of the lease being asked for had changed. No, I'm seeing Oida's shaking her head, and because I'm seeing,
I think, yeah, I mean, our ortho is not always accurate to where the lines are. So if you're looking at sort of where the boat is extending beyond,
yeah,
that's just as likely to be that our lines are not aligning with the aerial photo.
Yeah.
okay. It just maybe the boats are bigger, but it seems fuller of boats than it did back 20 years ago. Okay, thank you. I'm in support of the motion.
Okay, thank you. Maureen?
Thanks, Mayor Andrew. I had some questions that have sort of gotten clearer over the last couple of days. And initially it was a question about terminology, but now it's a question about whether the application to Flinroe actually accommodates the rezoning that we did back in 2018 or so to allow for float homes for staff. What I'm seeing here is the big building and the 2 float homes that are currently there. Has that been scaled back, Daniel? Sorry, Daniel, can't hear you. You're on mute.
Yeah. I don't know, I guess, long-term plans of it. I just know that the renewal and what's before us is consistent with the zoning, but you're right, the zoning would allow greater development than what is in this.
Right.
In this report.
So if the Union Steamship Marina Company decided that they wanted to actually pursue what they are currently zoned for under municipal bylaws, they would have to apply for further approvals from Flinroe.
That seems to be the case. That's not something, I necessarily, I'm super familiar with, but that's what I think is that for them to build out, they would want to update their agreements with the province.
Okay, and I'm in support of the resolution that's before us. I just was surprised that it wasn't a request to enable that full build out. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Maureen. So back to, I got Michael first and then back to Sue Ellen.
Mayor, I think the point and I certainly support it, is that this has now been hanging fire, I believe, if I've got it correct, from December 2018.
Yep.
This has been waited for. Therefore, as we sit here in December 2021, I certainly support it. And I hope that we as a municipality, whatever good officers we have with Flinroe, might ask that this get expedited with reasonable speed, because reasonable speed doesn't exactly seem to be the spirit of the month, which is a shame considering it's December. So perhaps we could give this support, given the length of time it's been outstanding, which really is, for any business, a very difficult thing to work around and tolerate. So I certainly support it, and let's get this moved ahead.
Yeah, that's a good point, Michael. Thank you. Back to Sue Ellen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is, next one is about, I thought that when the sewer was approved for those buildings, that it was going to be taken away by truck, that honey wagons were going to come and it was going to be, can you remind me what was the final decision of council?
Daniel?
Yes, sorry. Sue Ellen, I'm not sure, but they are connected to the sewer. They had hoped to do more extensive onboard treatment of it, and were not able to get Coastal Health endorsement, and so are connected to the sewer.
Okay, Thank you. It's not part of this discussion here today, so thank you. I just wanted to have a quick question so I understood what we were voting on.
Yeah, it sort of is though. Okay, is there no further questions? Hope, could I ask you just to read that? Because I can't remember what the final version was.
So whereas Bowen Island Municipality has received a referral from Flynn for Crown Land application file number 2401343 located at 341 Bowen Island Trunk Road in relation to an existing marina. Whereas the application is to replace an existing lease with a renewed 30-year lease, and whereas the proposed uses are consistent with the Bowen Islands land use bylaw, therefore be it resolved that council has no objection to the application for the replacement lease, subject to an update of section 3.5 of the management plan to address impacts from sewage.
All right, thank you. I'll move that. Second.
Second.
Okay, I see Allison there. And any further discussion? Sue Ellen, further discussion?
Yeah, I'm just wondering about the gray water. And is that part of sewage? Or does it just go out into from sinks and things like that? Is it part of sewage?
Yes, it goes into the sewer.
I think that would be covered.
Coastal Health doesn't accept gray water going anywhere but into the sewer.
And I have a question for staff. What about gray water? Is it part of sewage?
I would consider it part of that section 3.5. So it would be covered in that section.
And section 3.5, but refers, our motion though says 3.5 in the management plan related to sewage only, right? Can we add gray water back in?
I don't have a problem with that. Does anybody else have a problem with that? Okay, put it, Allison, if you get your hand up.
Well, my problem is if Vancouver Coastal Health insisted they hook up to the sewer, then everything's hooked up to the sewer. Because Vancouver Coastal Health doesn't let the rest of us have gray water and we're on land.
I think this would make it clear to the community and everybody if we added the word gray water back in.
And the other point I have is gray water from the boats that are anchored, that are tied up in the marina that come from all over everywhere. They will all have gray water. They don't have holding tanks.
I guess my
Correct, but they're not.
what's wrong with adding gray water back in?
Because you
Because it
can't
opposes it
control
to sewage.
what happens with the boat.
It opposes it to sewage. It makes them distinct. But if you want it in there, just say sewage, including gray water.
That's what I would like.
Okay.
Thank you. Just for clarity for everybody.
Okay, Hope, can you put that in as a friendly amendment then?
Thank you.
So
Thank
it's
you,
going to be
Maureen.
sewage, including gray water. And if there's no further discussion, I'll ask a question. All in favor? Aye. Super duper. The does pass, and just advise the proponents that it probably be pretty wise to clean up that 3.5 and send it in shortly, so it's there when our letter goes through. Okay, so we'll move on to the updated Community Energy and Emissions Plan 2021. Bonnie Brokenshire, Manager of Environment and Parks Planning, dated November 25th, 2021. Hi, Bonnie.
Hi, Mayor and Council. Good evening. Just starting my slideshow here. So the purpose of tonight's presentation is to present Council with the most updated version of Bowen Island Municipality's Community Energy and Emission Plan, herein referred to as the CEEP, for informational purposes. Bowen Island Municipality has been working towards implementing actions to reduce emissions since signing on to the BC Climate Action Charter in 2007. The 2016 CEEP was created prior to the climate emergency being declared by BIM and before the creation of the 2020 Climate Action Strategy. The 2016 CEEP initiated a climate action plan for Bowen Island, serving as a precursor to the Climate Action Strategy. The 2016 plan is being replaced by this update, the SEEP 2021. And having a current plan makes the municipality ready to apply for funding from federal and provincial governments and other funders to implement climate action strategies. This updated SEEP will act as a supporting document that will help inform strategies identified in Bowen Island's climate action strategy. The primary goal of the climate action strategy and the SEEP is to help Bowen Island residents experience the benefits and co-benefits of a connected, healthy, and economically prosperous community. The updated SEEP was developed by the municipality in collaboration with the Community Energy Association. Partial funding for this update was provided by BC Hydro. And in addition, community groups, on-island contractors, committees, interdepartmental BIM staff, and members of council were consulted during the update of the plan. The SEEP focuses on leveraging municipal powers to help residents and businesses save energy, emissions, and money. The SEEP contains big moves focusing in 7 areas with action items associated with each big move are assigned timelines for implementation of short, medium, and long. The 7 general areas covered in the SEEP are transportation, buildings, waste, renewable energy, sequestration, local food production, and organizational leadership. But the main components of the plan are related to reducing energy and emissions associated with transportation, buildings, and waste. The updated SEEP will act as a guiding document that informs the climate action strategy. The strategy will be on my work plan for 2022. I think, the climate action strategy, things become implemented and also things are updated or outdated quickly. So I think it's important to update the strategy every couple of years. And staff will be working with the Environment and Climate Action Advisory Committee and community members to update the climate action strategy, which will incorporate items from this updated SEEP. SEEP items will be reviewed, these financial considerations will be reviewed by staff and the ECAC subcommittee, which is yet to be formed, and items will be incorporated into updating the climate action strategy in 2022. The updated climate action strategy will identify those items needing financial resources, and council will be involved as needed to approve expenditures in the future. So the recommendation before council this evening is that council receive the updated Community Energy and Emissions Plan 2021 for information.
Thank you, Bonnie. And so we'll go to questions. And see, Allison has a question.
Yeah, there's a few things in here I just don't quite understand. For example, on page 29 of the report, or page 107 of the 167 pages, it says work with BC Transit, BC Ferries, and neighboring communities to ensure that transit and ferry service progressively transition to zero emissions. We don't deal with BC Transit, we deal with TransLink. And there's all sorts of things in here that sort of make me feel like it's just, a shelf document. There's something else in here about the previous page. Rather than solve traffic problems by expanding roads. We don't have traffic problems in that we've got too much volume on our roads. So we're just getting this for information. I mean, I'm just wondering, it doesn't really, and then it talks about somewhere else about putting in heat pumps as a big move. Well, only 2% of our emissions come from natural gas. So having people spend a lot of money to put in heat pumps isn't going to really be a great, big, huge saver. So, why are there, those? And then I guess my other question is, it talks about us growing by 2.5%. I assume that was based on the 2016 census, not current census data. So we're getting this for information. It's not going to be the total guiding document that we're going to do all these steps.
That's correct, Councillor Morse. You know, we'll dive into
Aspects.
implementable, realistic items that are in. This is a guiding document, and you know, with consultation with the community and feedback and staff, will use this as a reference to update our climate action strategy.
Okay, and then when they're talking about, I'd really like to know how they come up with the data. There's some reference in here that it's calculated based on some provincial something. So how do they calculate the GHGs from passenger vehicles?
I'm sorry, I can't tell you exactly, but I can definitely look that up, and so I can provide a complete, accurate answer to your question, specifically that metric.
Yeah, because if they just assume that a car goes an average number and we've got X number of cars, you know.
Yeah, the data, you know, at best is not good. Or it's not current. It's definitely an area that's lacking in provincial realm.
Okay, and I mean, it's very clear that the ferry's been left out, but
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, Allison, you done?
yeah, I guess if we're just receiving it for information and
Yeah.
we're not going to barrel ahead and do all these things that aren't going to, you know, they don't necessarily recognize, you know, it's not what I would call a document that really reflects Bowen Island. It's more a standard template they've used it for everywhere else. And done a cut.
Yeah, well, your points are well taken, Councillor Morse, and you know, really staff tried to make it as Bowen relevant as possible. And you know, I really am grateful to Community Energy Association to, you know, helping us with the document. And as I say, I think it's a good guide. I think it's a good reference for us as we make current our climate action strategy, which is our comprehensive sort of implementable plan that is very Bowen specific.
Okay, thanks, Bonnie. Okay, Sue Ellen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm delighted to see this. I think with all the with British Columbia still in a state of emergency from the flooding in Abbotsford and up into the central BC, and with the wildfires this summer and all the drought and the heat dome earlier, I think it's really great to get an update of our climate and energy emissions plan. And so I'm happy to see this. I like seeing electric vehicle projections for Bowen Island and different things that are more up to date. And I know that the data is not super specific, but I do know that they get the data from ICBC, vehicle registrations and things like that. Whatever's available is what the Community Energy Association uses. And we don't pay a lot for this. And it's just great to have all that expertise, having participated in them over the years. I just wanted to mention the ferry is out of scope. They only, they won't put them in because they only put in things that in my experience, that the municipality can control or have some influence on. I wanted to mention a heat pump. We got one this summer or this spring. I'm really glad because it was just before the heat dome and it cooled us down. The point of the heat pump is not just to reduce emissions from natural gas, but it's also to conserve electricity for other uses and just generally energy conservation, which is what that group is all about. I'm glad to see this and thank you for bringing it to us. Thank you.
Thanks to you, Sue Ellen, and on to Maureen.
Also, my thanks, Bonnie, for bringing this forward for council's receipt. I know that there were some challenges along the way in pulling it together, and part of those challenges reflected some of the concerns that Councillor Morse has expressed. Sue Ellen made a number of the points that I wanted to make, so thanks, Sue Ellen. I would just refer anybody who's interested in more of the details of how things are calculated to the provincial government website, where there's fairly extensive information about how the CEEP is calculated. For me, there is major value in looking at the, it's not quite year over year comparisons, but looking at the longitudinal comparisons in the data and to see where advancements have been made. So we may not have an absolute certainty in a specific number for a year, but we can see what the trend is. So thanks again, Bonnie. Appreciate the work.
Yeah, thank you, Maureen. Yeah, it's a very broad-based document, but it certainly raises a consciousness of what we're trying to do here, and we're going in the right direction. So that's a tremendous document, and thank you very much, Bonnie, for that. Sue Ellen, your hand's still up. Do you want to come back in?
You're muted.
Muted.
I'd like to move that council receive the updated Community Energy and Emissions Plan 2021 for information.
Thank you. Second? I'll second it. Okay, any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Thank you. Okay, that passes. And we'll move on to 8.3, which is a resolution of 2 encroachments on municipal property. Patrick Graham, Director of Engineering. Now we are a little bit early. Is Patrick in there? He is. Oh, that's great. Super. Over to you, Patrick. Thank you. Howdy.
Everybody. So really this is following up on our ongoing efforts to address the many encroachment issues that we have with various structures and driveways and utilities on municipal property. Earlier this year, we had a driveway and a water line that was crossing municipal right-of-ways. And today there's a couple that we'd like to resolve if possible. So one of them goes back a few years. It was before my time, when a set of residents at 1473 Eagle Cliff Road constructed a set of stairs down to Cleator Road to access the beach. And my understanding from looking at the history is that the neighbors objected to this, and there was a council resolution from 2019, I believe, that directed the not the removal of the stairs, but the removal of the realignment of the bottom portion, so that it was not in front of the 1469, the neighbor's property. Early in 2020, the residents at 1473 hired an engineer to review that, and they did point out that there was some potential issues with the slope and damage to the trees that would result from realigning the stairs. And they recommended that, they requested that that be reconsidered, and they be allowed to leave the stairs in their current location. We have looked at this, and there is a solid point about the stairs and the impact on the trees. Maybe I'll just quickly share my screen. And so can you see that?
Yeah.
So the resident up here, they built a set of stairs. Somewhere around here, it crosses into the Cleator Road right-of-way. And then what was essentially the direction that was previously given was that, so this bottom portion here is in front of the neighbor's property. I mean, the neighbor's property, the houses are way up above. They're a lot higher than this elevation. But this bottom portion is, if you draw the property lines down, is in front of the neighbor's property. They were directed to move it here. You can see these trees here. This would have a significant impact on the tree roots, and the trees do play a significant role in stabilizing the slope. Just to show you the plan view. So essentially 1473 Eagle Cliff, the Cleater Road allowance. They did also, and we've added these to the list too. There's a number of other structures within the road right of way. So it's really, this is 1469, and it's the bottom part here that, they've essentially requested that we rescind that direction. So I think that's reasonable. It's not a good solution to realign the bottom section of the staircase. Either we allow it to remain and we accommodate it, establish an easement, whatever needs to be done for that, or we require it to be removed. The neighbors at 1469 sent some correspondence earlier today. They're still very upset about the staircase. And I wasn't able to speak with them to get their full perspective on that. And they did mention they had some plans to develop beach access from their upper property down to the beach for their older relatives and for themselves. I thought, well, if we made this a non-exclusive easement and they could connect in with this staircase, would that be, would that help them out? So anyways, they've requested that we defer this to give them a chance to come up with their own plans. We're just bringing it forward because it's been sitting there unresolved for a long time. So I don't have a particular problem with, deferring it further. I don't know if there's any thoughts on this one, on how there is the aspect that came up last time where, it's work that's done without authorization. If we just grant an easement, accommodate it, there's the perception that, well, you can just get away with whatever you want. You just go and do it, and then, the municipality will help you figure it out. For the driveway up on Highland Trail, we had an exchange where we obtained some value and got a road dedication that we needed. We also got compensated for staff time that, a significant amount of staff time that went into it over the years. So something similar here might be, there's nothing in particular that, we don't need a road dedication in the same way as that other example. So I'm not sure what the compensation would be. I just think the previous direction was given a while back, before I started here, and it's not the best approach. Either the stairs can stay or they can't, I think is more the decision. And I don't have a problem with deferring it and giving more time. To me, it seems like if they both want beach access, can we not figure something out? Anyways, I don't have too much more to say about this one.
Yeah, that's it's pretty straightforward. Do you want us to deal with this one first, Patrick, and then we'll move on to the other one?
That might make more sense.
Okay, yeah. So I'm going to go to Rob first. Rob, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Patrick. And we did have a site visit there.
Yeah,
About 2 years ago now, I think. And as Patrick mentioned, I think the the alternative route or the route that's in front of their property would probably create more damage than what's there right now. So, and there was, I listened to both parties. I think there's been a lot of sort of not great communications between the parties, which is unfortunate, but I agree. And I do understand that there was an understanding that the staircase would be accessible to both parties moving down towards the road. So I have no problems with where it is right now. I think it's probably less damaging than the alternative. I do want to make sure, though, that as in some of the other cases, that we do recoup our costs from this. This has taken up quite a bit of staff time, council time as well. And I think, when this kind of stuff happens, it's unfortunate. We sort of have to call them, piece by piece. But I also think we need to make sure that we're recouping our costs for doing that kind of work and for staff time and whatnot.
Thank you, Rob. Maureen?
Thank you. 2 points. I wanted to know how Public Works currently manages the sort of the chargeback of staff time. Is there any sort of docket system where you're actively recording the amount of time spent on issues like this? That's my first question.
Yeah, we don't have a process for that. For the driveway off Highland Trail, we came up with our best estimate of the amount of time spent.
Yeah,
it wasn't.
Yeah. That's kind of what I figured. Would something like that be useful, or would it take more time to administer?
I guess there's circumstances where it could be useful. Sometimes you're trying to help someone out with something or resolve something, and you don't necessarily know it's going to be, many hours of time, and 2 years later, we'll still be working on it. So, yeah, there may be better ways we can track our time and make it easier. And we did say that we did identify the need for a policy around encroachments that would make it clear how we deal with these various situations. And we haven't made a lot of progress on that. Really just trying to find the time to advance some of these encroachments. Sometimes it's driven by, somebody needs a permit and, there's a encroachment that needs to be resolved as part of that, which is the case with the next one.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. And then just my second question is a general comment. We received some correspondence related to this agenda item today. And I just would like to say that as a member of council, I really appreciate correspondence from the public on items in the agenda, but I also appreciate correspondence that is courteous and non-libelous, and that when I do receive correspondence that crosses that line, it makes it hard for me to hear the points that are being made in the letter. So I would encourage folks to treat council and staff with the same courtesy that you expect from us. That's all.
Thank you, Maureen. Well said. And over to Sue Ellen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to I've got a bunch of notes here, so I'm going to work my way through them. And there's a couple of questions, I think. I appreciate Patrick's position there. Stairs or no stairs, community beach access. I'm thinking that like we have something in the land use bylaw for shared docks, shared use docks, perhaps we should develop something about shared beach access trails or something. We're getting more and more, it seems to me, requests for, or sometimes people don't ask permission and they just put in tramways and different kinds of stairs and things down to the water. And maybe the idea of a shared one sounds good to me. But I do also want to bring up a couple of other points. One of them is that the Florendo report in there by the environmental consultant refers to the trees holding the slope stability and maintaining it, assuming that those trees would be cut down and that the stumps would rot at some point. And I didn't quite understand that part, but I did see that the trees were recognized as being needed to hold the slope. And I see these rights of way, the municipal rights of way that run through neighborhoods. They may not be developed now, but they're a kind of green infrastructure for me. They hold steep slopes together. They let water permeate the soil. They slow down storm water. They are obviously home for wildlife and things like that. They're places where trails where kids do shortcuts to neighbors' houses or piano lessons and things like this. So I value our undeveloped road right-of-ways, and I think they have climate indications for holding the steep slopes, as this environmental report says. And currently we've got a hazardous areas development permit area underway, just reflecting what the municipality's concern is about upcoming climate impacts with, heavier winter rains and drier summers, making the soil less able to take in water, that kind of thing. So climate impacts, I think we need to keep the trees in our rights of way and whatever other wildflowers or whatever is there. And I also think the sequestration of carbon dioxide from the air of the trees is significant too. And we just saw a report that referred to that, our community emissions plan, climate emissions plan. So all of this just to say, I think the municipal road right-of-ways, these rights of way, are public land, and they have value to the community and to properties downstream and perhaps upstream, and wells and springs and all that kind of thing. So that's one of the points I wanted to make. Another one is that we've got a new bylaw, an enforcement bylaw for public spaces, 357 and 358. And that refers to removing vegetation or cutting vegetation. And I don't see a reference to that in here. But I know this happened before the fact, but it's another reason that people should get a permit before they do works in a public space, like a municipal right-of-way. So I'm like previously, I'm still very concerned about work being done without permits. And I think the precedent we would set by permitting this would mean that people could go ahead, do work without permits, and then they just pay some money to the municipality later. That's not fair for people that may not have the funds. And it's also not a good way, I don't think, of managing our public spaces and our green infrastructure in a time of climate challenges, which we just talked about in the previous piece. We had 7 road closures on this Monday a month ago when that torrential rain came down, and we need trees to help us manage stormwater. So I would like personally, I think you should remove the stairs. You didn't have a permit. We've got a dwelling constructed at 815 Smith Road, constructed without a permit. We've got, I don't want to set any message saying that this is something that's okay. I don't think it's okay. And I think we have these bylaws and things that we spend so much time on and staff work on in order to manage our land so that it's sustainable for future generations. And I don't think working without permits fits that. So I'm sure I'm out of time here, but I just want to say I will not be voting in favor of entering into a lease easement agreement with 1473 Eagle Cliff Road. And I will not be voting in favor of rescinding the removal of the portion of the stairs either. I think there's been a couple of years here where the landholder has had a chance to do something and they have not. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Yola. Anybody else out there? Go ahead, Allison.
So if we spent the money to remove the stairs, who pays for that?
It would be the the property owner's cost.
And where's the bylaw that says we can recover that from him?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. I was going back, it was April the 8th, 2019 that we passed that resolution. So 2.5 years ago, roughly, Rob.
Yeah.
Yeah, and prior to that, we dealt with it in January 14th, 2018. So this has been dragging on for almost 4 years. My recollection, and I'd have to go back and try and find notes, was that the applicant, the next door neighbor, it's very small encroachment in the front of their place. And if it was a non-exclusive easement, so if they built a path down, they could also use the stairs on the latter part. You're negotiating a new easement, so it's all in front of his place or right of way, causes all those problems of damaging the trees that are there. So I'm not in favor of that. But the other issue is he did do it without a permit. So I think we've got to get something, whether it's a contribution to the Parks and Trails Reserve Fund for future trails, or contribution to, something. But and I'm assuming we would have maybe a bond for ongoing maintenance, so that if they fall into dilapidation, they can be removed. Well, the agreement would, I guess, be a charge against his property somehow, so that if they didn't get maintained and they became a hazard. I mean, the other side is if they kept them to their land, they could just start sliding down the cliff, and that's going to cause more erosion to the cliff with kids running up and down the cliff than, the bank and creating their own trail.
All right, thanks. Allison, is that it?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out if there's any way we can fine and penalties and how much, get all our costs recouped plus a contribution to a Parks Reserve Fund.
Yeah, I agree with you in principle. Michael, go ahead.
Yes, Mayor, this is a very earnest conversation about a staircase. Listening to Patrick, I hear that a little bit of time might be welcome so that perhaps the neighbors could reflect upon this amongst themselves. I wonder if we could set a deadline to that, say our next council meeting, or maybe the latter one in January, and see if we can find a resolution about this amongst the neighbors and possibly move on, because otherwise this is going to become a breakfast conversation.
Yeah, thank you. I agree with you, Michael, on that. I was never in favor of moving these stairs in the first place, but I think the stairs should be left where they are. They're in our road allowance. It's got nothing to do with the neighbor's property. It's not in his sight line or anything like that, line of sight. Maybe it does go into his projected property line, but I don't think that that's a consideration at all. So I don't think the stairs should be moved. I think there's going to be a tremendous amount of damage on those trees if the stairs are moved, plus an amazing amount of money that the proponent is going to have to spend. The stairs are very expensive. Now that doesn't let him off the hook that he went ahead and built the stairs without a permit. There's no question about that. And I think there should be a financial retribution for that. So my thought is that that the existing stairs should stay there, and the neighbor should be able to tie into the top of them where he can, where his property line comes in, and that we should talk about a restitution, or a sort of let's say a contribution for that to go into a fund of our discretion. So that's the way I feel about it. Should we even bother with this recommendation that it stays there? I'd like to sort of run it through and see how people feel about it. Is there any further comments now with what I said there? Allison, go ahead. And
Well, I think you were suggesting we defer it, or Michael was suggesting we defer. And I think that's probably the best way for the applicant to come back with a proposal as to what, agree with Public Works as to what they might contribute.
Compensation.
Or just
And any
keep them all.
contribution.
And the April 8th, 2019 resolution was passed by 6 of 7 councillors voted in favor of that resolution. Or
Yeah.
6, and I was the opposing member.
Oh, yeah,
So
okay.
you
Thank you.
guys have to change your minds
Yeah.
by allowing it, rescinding that motion. So I would move that we defer consideration of item, is it 8.5, Hope?
8.3
8.3.
8.3
A.
until the second meeting in January. Is there a date for that?
I think it has to be just the first half because there's another
Yeah.
property.
Oh, right, okay. I'll move that we defer the decision on 1473 Eagle Cliff Stairs until the second meeting in January. We do have January 24th?
Second that.
Okay, and we'd ask staff at that time to start a conversation with the owner about restitution, or
I can, do you want me to add that to the resolution and
Yeah.
that staff
Yeah.
be directed to discuss
Contribution?
the right-of-way agreement and suitable contributions?
yeah. And I think that's, I think we have to deal with the actual owner on this, and I don't know about, I don't think it's, if we have to get into the,
We've
I
been
don't know
dealing
what's
with the owner.
I know, but I don't think the neighbor should get involved in this decision. Okay, Rob, over to you.
Yeah, I'm happy with Allison's motion. And I just wanted to make sure that we do, when this comes back to council, that we do have a staff recommendation on appropriate, whatever it is, contributions to a fund or whatever it is, so we can vote on it based on that. And I'd be happy to move forward with that. So I'm good with that.
Super, thanks, Rob. And Maureen?
I was still uneasy about the discussion of restitution, contribution, etc. I'm feeling as though it is underscoring the go ahead and do it and then pay after the fact, an unspecified negotiated amount that staff have to go forward with. I really don't like the message that is being sent there. I also would like to have some clarity about what council is looking for in terms of a resolution. I think we're putting staff into a difficult position, picking up something that has been, in abeyance for quite some time. So what exactly is the direction we are providing to staff here?
Well, I agree with that, and I don't know if we should just send it out as kind of a blank card and say, well, I think there should be some kind of parameters there. The last issue we had was resolved, but without us getting into actual numbers. Liam or Patrick, could you just, how do you think the best approach is? Sure, we can send it back to staff, but is staff prepared to come up with some kind of a number, or should that be decided by council? What would you prefer?
We have done a little bit of looking around for examples of other municipalities, how they deal with this. City of Vancouver has a schedule of fees and charges relating to encroachments, where it's like a per square meter area. It seems like it's more, though, related to covering admin fees, as opposed to, you did something wrong, now you have to pay us.
Yeah.
for that. I'm not sure where I would find examples of, to use for
Compensation.
precedent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
without having the time to establish a policy that could outline a specific schedule of fees, it's hard for staff to determine, well, what is reasonable and acceptable. I mean, what I would recommend is that we would go to the property owner and identify that, council's direction and point to previous agreements and the amounts and say, okay, for this encroachment over here, resulted in a contribution of X, and this one a contribution of Y, and have them think about what would be a comparable. But I do,
it is,
and I do echo councillors' concerns, and I appreciate council bringing it up that we definitely do not want to be sending the message that you can go ahead and do things outside of the normal process and procedures and then beg for forgiveness later.
Forgiveness is going to be very expensive. Yeah. Should we carry this on maybe in the closed meeting or not? Or should we just leave it as is? But I want this to come back. When it comes back, I want it to come back with some kind of a resolution. If we can find some kind of a number, I don't know, what it would be. I know it's going to be very expensive for the proponent to change the routing of those stairs and go through the wood, through the forest there. It's extremely expensive. So I don't know. I just, I can come up with a number, but I don't know if it's going to be all right with everybody else.
If I could just finish, I don't think it's our concern what the cost is to the person who built this. I don't think that should be a factor here. And I think that we also haven't reached a landing on whether we are prepared to allow this or whether we are going to require removal of the stairs. And I think that needs to be underscored for all parties.
Okay, thanks, Maureen. Sue Ellen? And then Rob, if you get your hand up again.
I might jump in after Sue Ellen really quick.
Okay, thank you.
Now we've got a motion to defer, moved and seconded. Otherwise, I was going to move that we request that we direct that those stairs be removed from the public right of way and the part of them that are in the public right of way. And the reason for this is because there was no permission asked for. And since we made, as a council, our resolution that the removal of the portion of the stairs and the road allowance in front of the neighboring property be removed, nothing has happened. I think we should take the next step, which is ask that require that those stairs be removed from the right of way, the part of them that's in the right of way. And they've got a driveway they can go around. And I don't see, I'm here in the public interest, not in the interest of a landowner who has constructed things without a permit and has cut down trees in the public road right away if that happened. And I'm not concerned with the neighbor. I'm not mentioning the neighbor. That's another sort of unfairness that's happening here. But the big unfairness I see is that some people will have the money to cheerfully pay this and go, okay, and others will not. And I don't see whatever that fee is, and I don't, or whatever that, what are we calling it, contribution might be. And I don't think that's a good way for a municipality to carry on in the community interest. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Will. Rob?
Yeah, and I just want to say, like Councillor Fass has been very consistent on this, and I really appreciate that with her. Where do we sort of hold the line on this? And I think, you know, I'm challenged with this quite a bit. I sort of have been taking these piece by piece, issue by issue. I mean, we've allowed other things to happen that are far greater than this. You know, I'm thinking specifically with that parking that was built up just further up Eagle Cliff, I think there, that we had a site visit to not too long ago. That was much bigger of an egress onto municipal property at the time. And we did come to an agreement there. So, you know, I'm trying to figure out a bit of fairness here as well, even though, you know, like we make exceptions here, we don't there, and how do we decide on that? To me, this one is a bit of a smaller issue, whether we ask to have them removed or not, and whether them scampering up and down the cliff is going to create more damage or not, I think is up in the air. But I do think, you know, if we do defer this, I would trust staff would got the message that we want to, you know, we want to make a substantial penalty to make sure that this just doesn't continue to happen, that people realize that when this does happen, there's going to be consequences that are appropriate. And I will leave it up to staff to sort of come up with that. I think it's hard to design a policy around that. And unfortunately, I think this is going to be a bit of a case by case basis, but I do appreciate where Councillor Fass is coming from on this. So,
Yeah, good points, Rob. Thank you. Okay, so Hope, did you draft some kind of a resolution from a new one? A new recommendation?
Need a motion to defer?
The council defer its consideration of an easement agreement for 1473 Eagle Cliff Road to its January 24th regular council meeting, and that council direct staff to discuss a right-of-way agreement and voluntary contribution with the property owner.
Okay, I like that. I think we give them one more chance, but I'm going to move that. And
It's already been moved, Gary. I moved it.
Oh, did you?
And seconded.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I'm sorry. Okay. Any further discussion? Then Rob, you still got your hand up, but I think it's okay. Thanks. And so there's no further discussion on this one. I'll ask a question. All in favor? Aye. And opposed? Councillor Fast in opposition. Thank you. Okay, back to you, Patrick, for the second part of this.
Okay, hopefully the next one's a little easier
More
to
straightforward.
resolve. Yeah, so it's along Hummingbird, and you know, as you know, it's steep on the east side of Hummingbird Lane down towards the water. So in this case, there's a driveway that crosses over neighboring property and also crosses over a public easement. It's not a road. But it is a public easement to the sea. You can't get down to the water really. There's potentially a viewpoint, you know, a trail down to a viewpoint that you could have there. In this case, there
Is that
was
a road, Patrick? That road
What's that?
allowance that was dedicated at the time of subdivision but unbuilt because it's a buffalo jump at the end?
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not sure when the road was dedicated. We have a number of these easements, or you know, that look like road right of ways that aren't actually used for anything. And you know, don't access anything, and I'm not sure what the history of this road dedication is. I do know that there was a driveway, a permit in 1993 to install the driveway where it currently is, crossing over this road allowance, and that was from the Ministry of Transportation and Highways. So it isn't a case of somebody building something without a permit. There was actually a permit. It's not really, it was attached to the report and it's not really the type of agreement that that we need for this. And so what's being proposed is that in the same manner, a non-exclusive easement be established, so you can still have a trail down to a viewpoint if that's something that was desired. This is being driven by a building permit process and a driveway access permit. The applicant needs to establish this easement. So it's essentially an easement for a driveway that exists. There were some comments from in reviewing this from the manager of environment about not wanting the easement area to be paved. So that could be included as a condition. I don't know that it really affects the impact or accessibility of or integrity of the public right of way. I do think having a driveway entirely on their own property would be very difficult given the terrain. It does make more sense for the driveway to remain where it is, and that essentially the driveway area that was permitted in 93 is established as a non-exclusive easement. So that's the recommendation there. Just to be clear, I'll just, so we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Share my screen. So we're coming off of Hummingbird Lane. It actually does, the driveway to this is the property that's applying for the easement, so it would be in their name. It crosses over this property up here, and they actually access their property from the easement area. So ideally, it would be a joint application. It's hard enough to get one property owner to agree to everything and get all the surveys done, and so that's what we're coming forward with here.
So that easement it covers that area on top of the full site plan there. It covers that area, that triangle there, right? On the full site plan at the end.
Can you put the highways map up, Dan or Patrick, from the previous? Is that sort of shows? Yeah, no, down there, that one.
Yeah, this is the previous permit that was issued. So this property here crosses from Hummingbird Lane, crosses that property, and then crosses the public easement, the public road allowance.
The dedicated road allowance.
And so it's this property that's.
Do they have an easement across the other property?
They do, yeah.
Okay.
So if you got that one, the full site plan, I think it's right at the end, or maybe,
No.
oh no, it's right at the beginning. It's right at the beginning, sorry.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so it's that area, this triangle over here, if you've got,
Yeah.
that's the triangle that they need right there, right?
Yeah.
I can see one goes to the other lot there, and
Yeah.
yeah,
They don't have the
other
They don't have
property.
the road allowance.
the property line but the public property easement line is probably about here.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Yeah, okay, that's great.
And so it doesn't actually capture, there still is some
Some of the old
additional
stuff.
encroachment on the property to the north.
Yes,
Isn't captured in this, so it's resolving this, but not completely, I suppose.
well, what do you think about that? Do you think you should do it all at the same time or not? Or is there two different proponents here?
Two different
Ideally.
lots.
Ideally, I guess it's the owners at 883 have been working with us to try and get this established as part of their development permitting process.
Okay,
And so they've sort of fast tracked all the surveying and, getting the draft easements drawn up. And, I don't think their neighbors were, looking at this with the same sense of urgency, wanting to get it resolved
yeah, okay.
right away.
So you're happy to just do this section now?
Yeah, I am. I think it's better than not resolving any of it.
Yeah, correct. Okay, Michael, I see your hand up there first, please.
Yes, I've got to say, I do know this area firsthand, and it is, as far as driveways are concerned, a dreadful, dreadful muddle. It is almost as though someone set up a group of architects to see who could devise the most convoluted set of driveways with any given period of space. I support it not only because it is the best attempt to sort out this, but also those driveways which are gravelled fall quite steeply off the tarmac road, and that road is not overlit. So if you are walking down that side of the road, you better make very clear that if you've had heavy rains and the gravel's been swept aside, it would be easy to do a misstep on that side. So anything, Patrick, that helps improve that situation, which is a tangle, and make it better, I thoroughly support, because right now it is a real mess, and I worry at night when it's dark and when we've had heavy rains and some of that gravel gets swept aside. So whilst we don't think we're dealing with all of this, if we're dealing with part of it, that certainly has my support. And also, I mean, this is a real challenge for the people living there, and sooner or later, however enthusiastic they may or may not be, these awkwardly positioned driveways are going to have to be addressed by one owner or the other. So I'm glad although this is not a full step, I'm glad we're making this step, and I certainly support it.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Sue Ellen?
Thank you. I think Michael, as the neighbor, Trustee Kale, as the neighbor, has probably answered my question, but maybe staff could just confirm the steepness of the driveway. I'm interested in the part about in the ecological considerations about perhaps requirement not to pave or in the future, or remove or something like that, to allow water to be better managed or reduce impacts. And I'm wondering about how steep it is there, Patrick.
It's probably about 15 to 20%. And it's a fairly steep driveway.
Is that like a set of stairs?
No, it's not as steep as a
40.
set of stairs.
Okay.
I
don't know. Yeah. Okay. Half that. Okay. Thank you.
Half as steep as that.
Okay. That's helpful. Thank you. Well, I'm just going to speak in favor of this. This is an applicant talking with staff, coming into an easement agreement for an existing driveway, as I understand it. And I like that it's a non-exclusive use, because viewpoints do get established over time. And of course, wildlife use it, and people want to look at the sea, even those who are out walking. And so I'm in favor. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Sue Ellen. Okay, any further discussion on this? If there isn't, the recommendation is the council direct staff to enter into an easement agreement with 883 Hummingbird Lane for the driveway access across the municipal right of way. And I'll move that. And second over to Michael. Any further discussion? Sue Ellen, you still got your hand up there, but I don't think you want to speak. If I see no further discussion, I'll ask the question. All in favor, aye. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you very much, everybody. Okay, now, Patrick, we also have you, don't go away quite yet, because Allison wants to discuss, it was 3.4 on the consent agenda. Allison, do you just want to go ahead on it? Do you have that? in front of you?
Funding, Patrick,
Yeah,
the application for the grant funding.
Yeah,
So all we're doing is applying for money.
at this point, yeah.
And how much are we applying for?
Um,
91,000, 382,000.
No, it's still to be confirmed. It's about 190,000 in
Times two.
allocated funds that are available from TransLink on an annual basis.
Okay.
And so if we submit for this project and essentially establish a placeholder, we can accumulate those allocated funds
oh, good.
for a future year's construction. And at this point, we still have some questions around alignment that need to be resolved. So we've spoken with them, and they're okay with us submitting essentially a concept level design showing the alignment options that we're considering, and we'll provide some sense of expected costs and timeline for construction. It is 75% funding, so we do have to commit, the 60,000 or so to access that.
Okay, because that's
annual
partly what was
allocation.
confusing me, because you've got the different 191,000, so our 25% would be 48,000. But then down at the bottom, you're saying total estimated funding for the 2023 is 658,000. So it looked to me like we were contributing more. So we're committing ourselves at this point to maybe 48,000.
That's all we're committing to at this point.
We can decide on the alignment, and we can decide whether the path gets built east to west or west to east. Like we could start at Grafton Lake and work east, or we could start at Artisan Square and work west, just depending on how much we can build for the amount of money we get.
Yeah. I mean, we do have
So,
some
flexibility.
Okay, Allison, is that it? Thank you.
Yeah. I just wanted to clarify that we're not committing ourselves to hundreds of thousands of dollars of our money.
No. Rob?
Yeah, I just want to, and I know I've said this before, I just, very happy that staff is continuing to look at ongoing funding for this project. I think we need that help from the province. And I've been very impressed by the matching funding that we've been getting. It's really incredible to see how much of this is coming from off island. So just kudos to staff on that. And Patrick also, I know those rubber barriers were put up afterwards, and they've made a tremendous difference. I've biked there quite a bit now, and it's really given a bit more security feeling, and it's kept a lot of the gravel off of the path and made it much more usable. So just kudos to staff for continuing to work on what's something it's gonna take years to do, but I think we're on a really good roll here, and I think we got some good consistent funding coming in, and I think we're working well with the province, and they want to work with us, and it's nice seeing one successful matching funding leading to another one, so we can slowly build this out. Thanks.
Thank you, Rob. Maureen?
I just want to double check on the capital budget amounts for 2022 and 2023. If I'm reading the report correctly, Patrick, it's 42K each year. Is that right? 48. Okay.
48.
Yeah, if the funding amounts from TransLink could change, and the other funding source that we don't know for sure how much we'll have, but we expect to have some remaining from the ICIP grant, the Resilience Infrastructure Grant for the Cardina section that we can apply to the next piece. So that's another funding source that is available to us until the end of 2023, which is why we're proposing that we won't be able to construct the whole section to Grafton Lake in 2023. Not anywhere near that. It's going to be a lot more expensive than that. But we will work towards defining a suitable scope for that year so that we can access all of those funds.
Okay, thank you, Patrick.
All right, Allison, you want to finish it up and then read? Oh, okay, Sue Ellen, go ahead.
Sure, I just want to move the motion that council directs staff to.
Hold on, I just got Allison there first.
No, I was just busy adding up numbers. So the total cost for 2023 is 658,000 if we get the 180. And so we're on the hook for 96,000. I think, if
Correct.
I'm reading the page 3 right.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Sue Ellen, carry on then. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I move that council direct staff to apply for the 2022 allocated grant funding that is available from TransLink for the construction of the next phase of the multi-use path from Artisans Lane to Grafton Lake.
Okay, second. Okay, Rob, thank you. And any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, everybody. And then we'll move back on to find my place here. Correspondence. We have don't have anything special on there, Hope? No. And reports of committees, county commissions, minutes of the Environment and Climate Action Advisory Committee. Who wants to do the lead on that? Anybody? Because I got a recommendation in here.
Bonnie's here to speak to that.
Oh, Bonnie, that's great. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Mayor. Yeah, so the committee put forward a recommendation to council to include a $5,000 allotment in the 2022 budget for an e-bike. Subsequent to that, I know Councillor Morse had suggested maybe some additional wording. So this bike, just to give a little bit more details about it, could be used by park staff to do patrols of especially the nature reserve around Grafton Lake once that becomes ours. Also could use it to go down to the cove to do some chalking of tires. There is possibly some other departments that could utilize the bike to go on short jaunts. Daniel said maybe for site visits, we'd have to have a sign-up sheet for it. And it's $5,000, which is a pretty hefty price tag for e-bike, but that's because it is to go off-road as well. So talking with e-bike users to have a good bike that can go on and off-road, it is around $5,000.
Okay, thank you. So, discussion?
I had suggested
Allison, go ahead first, yeah, and then it's Sue Ellen.
in the resolution that it read that council directs staff to include a $5,000 allocation in the 2022 capital budget to fund the purchase of an e-bike for use by staff in carrying out their duties, period.
You mean they can't use it to go mountain biking?
Second.
Okay, thanks, Sue Ellen.
Yep.
Okay, discussion on this? Allison, do you have anything further to say? Your hands up. Sorry?
Lord.
Okay, Sue Ellen,
Seconded.
and then Maureen.
Thank you. I'm in favor of this motion. It's a little different than what I thought it was going to be, but that's okay. I think this is good because I think it sets an example. And I think that the municipality is taking this climate action. I think it's also efficient, and I think it makes use of our. It will show that the municipality can make use of the multi-use pathway as well if that goes on there. And I think it's a good way of encouraging the community. So there's a whole bunch of E's in there, like empowering and encouraging and exemplifying, and all of those things are good for bringing climate action into the future. So that sounds like a good price for such work. Thank you.
Okay, Maureen.
Just to add somewhere in that resolution, Hope, the phrase to contribute to the electrification of the municipal fleet. So it's
I like
put
that.
in the context of a
Yeah, I like that.
movement.
So right after branded e-bike, which will contribute to the electrification of the municipal fleet.
Go ahead, Bonnie.
Yeah, I just want to mention that this was an action item in the climate action strategy.
Saw that.
All right. I guess I wouldn't want to be out there on many of the days in November here because it was pretty miserable. But I like the concept of it, I just hope the bike gets used. That's all. And so the recommendation. Do anybody want to hear that? Let's go. Hope if you've got that recommendation. Sorry, the new one.
The council directs staff to include a $5,000 allocation in the 2022 capital budget to fund the purchase of a municipal branded e-bike that will contribute to the electrification of the municipal fleet.
No, you've purchase of a municipally, I left out branded because I didn't, but we can leave it. Purchase of a municipally branded e-bike for use by staff in carrying out their duties. It's not just to ride around and show off a municipal brand.
Got it.
Okay.
And then the which will contribute to the electrification of the fleet.
Is Gary going to get to ride this bike too?
Well, that's what I want to know.
The mayor gets special privilege.
Yeah. Okay. That's okay. Let's put that
Sorry,
in
the
there.
motion says by
and
staff.
the insurance coverage.
Yeah, I was going to ask about insurance coverage, please, even
Yes,
if I
that too.
undertake never to ride it.
Yeah.
I want Gary
Okay.
to
So,
have some branded lycra.
yes.
Okay, let's get on with this, you guys.
Yeah. Okay. So as I see, there's no further discussion. I'll ask the question. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. Well done. You know, I still do want to ride it though. Okay, so we're going to move on to the okay. Where are we here? Sorry. Into new business already. CAO update, Liam Edwards.
Thank you, Mayor. I simply want to thank council for a exemplary year. It's been hard to believe that we're already at our last council meeting of 2021, and a lot has happened in this year. There's been a lot of activity on many fronts, and I think council deserves a bit of a round of applause for all their amazing work, and as well for staff too. That goes without being said that we all know how hard they work. So a big cheers to staff as well. And so I don't have any other updates, but I just wanted to make sure that you got some appreciation for all your hard work and contributions.
Here. Thank you very much, Liam. And we'll move on to update to council on Metro Vancouver business. So David Hawking, not going to happen. Update to council on Island Trust business. Island Trust municipal trustees Fast and Kale. Okay, go ahead. Sue Ellen first.
Okay, I was going to let Michael go first, but I will go first. We had our trust council meeting a week and a half ago, and that was in Victoria. About half the trustees Zoomed in, and half of them were there in person. So it was our first hybrid trust council meeting with 26 councillors, and it was successful. And that, as far as Islands Trust staff knew, it was the first sort of big hybrid meeting like that had happened over several days of meetings. I've got all kinds of notes. I won't read them here. What I thought I'd do is follow up with our CAO's note and to start thinking about the next year. So if you look at 12.19 of our agenda today, that's a link to the Trust Council agenda. And in there, you may find 22 matches. If you search for the word Bowen, that's just an indication of how much Bowen Island is involved in the trust. And the work that the Islands Trust has been doing, trustees like my trustee Kale and myself, and all the other ones, there's a lot of things in that strategic plan. And some of them include Bowen, and I wanted to avoid surprises because there's a bunch of work that's coming ready, and it may inform our next year's strategic plan, and it may assist with what we decide to do if we align our thinking or collaborate in different projects. For example, there's housing. There's 29 mentions of the word housing. If you do some counting in the agenda, there's especially I'd refer you to pages 45 to 61. That's the CAO of Islands Trust has given a detailed sort of update on the Islands Trust strategic plan. So it's kind of a summary of the work that's going on that will impact, or in many times will impact Bowen Island. So these are things like heritage preservation overlay mapping. This includes Bowen. It's underway now. The contract is awarded and the work has started. This is mapping that'll include, it's under our strengthen relations with First Nations goal, policy statement goal C, and it will be include a model heritage regulatory bylaw for protection of potential heritage and cultural sites, for example. So that mapping is going to come, whether we choose to do anything with it or look at it or whatever, but I wanted you to make sure that you knew it was out there. There's a cultural working group. We've got a reconciliation action plan. We've got a freshwater sustainability plan that's coming. So there's going to be a bunch of mapping associated with that will include Bowen. And anyway, a bunch of things. And I can answer questions if people have them, but I just wanted to make sure people knew that that these materials were coming, mapping and projects and model bylaws and things to do also with climate change and housing. And there was a very interesting discussion at the Islands Trust Council about housing. We passed a housing diversity and employee housing or something declaration of emergency, and there's work going to the Trust Programs Committee, which I believe Michael is on, and so he can perhaps fill us in on that about that is similar to our draft conservation development plan. So there may be some synergies there as well, relating to clustered housing and some of the different things that we've talked about. So I just wanted to flag that this parallel universe is happening, and there may be times when we could collaborate, and to let you know that the material was coming, so it didn't surprise you. And just as we start to think about the next year. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Sue Ellen. Michael?
Yes, thank you to my colleague Trustee Fass. That's a good summation. We did indeed have the first meeting, and it was interesting to look at the technology required to blend a hybrid meeting, especially when you've got 26 trustees. And to Islands Trust credit, it was a well-managed process, but it is a complicated one, and one that involves a good deal of technology. So when we look at hybrid meetings, again, no reason why we shouldn't have them, but it certainly does require some extra equipment. For me, there were two great takeaways, and largely because we actually had a chance for the first time to sit down and talk outside of the meetings with other trustees. And in the main, I think what I'll do is I'll just lay the minimum of groundwork, and we'll pick this up in January, because the council meeting before Christmas is probably not the time to go into long rambling statements. The first one is definitely going to be the draft policy statement. And I'm glad we've had a chance to reply on behalf of Bowen Municipality on that, and good that we have, because that is valuable information for all concerned. Speaking amongst the trustees generally, you can appreciate this is a long and fairly detailed document, probably one of the biggest areas of not necessarily disagreement, but certainly the area of thoughtfulness is how much the Islands Trust should be involved with housing, affordable housing. No one denies that it's an area of great complexity and great need. The issue which is taking up serious thought and proper thought is whether that is something the Islands Trust should be involved in, or whether it is overreach. So that'll be the subject for more genuine debate and discussion in 2022. The other item which there could be very little escaping from for some very definite discussion is the 22-23 budget. Now, the chief financial officer of Islands Trust isn't called the chief financial officer. The lady, a very respected lady called Julia Mobbs, and she's the director of admin services for Islands Trust. And I'm just going to read a couple of sentences out of her preamble, her written preamble to her budget presentation. And Julia Mobbs says this: the current draft 22-23 budget generates significant tax increases not seen at Islands Trust in recent history. While growth of the budget is a contributing factor to these current tax pressures, the single largest contributing factor is the lack of excess surplus funds in the General Revenue Surplus Fund to draw on as a revenue source. Islands Trust has a history of funding ongoing operations using excess surplus funds, a model that has been previously flagged by staff as unsustainable. Large draws from surplus in the budget have historically kept tax increases artificially low. So in 2022, we are really going to have to come to terms as 26 trustees with this budget, which again, I will go into the numbers which we could, it's in draft form, we can circulate. I am waiting, Julia Mobbs is submitting a line that she agreed was missing, and that was the forecast for this year. And it's going to be added so we can see year on year, including the forecast for this current financial year. And that will be for discussion in 2022. And I think it will be a serious discussion at the municipal level. And I know for a fact from sidebar discussions I've had with fellow trustees that it's a very serious discussion amongst the 26 trustees themselves. So a lot to get our hands around next year. And not all, and some of it is very far from trivial. So I look forward to reporting back at greater length in the 2022 year. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you, Michael. And we will move on to the update to Council on Metro Vancouver Regional Parks Committee meetings. Councillor Nicholson, Maureen, go ahead.
I don't have an update this evening. We have
all right. Okay, thank you. Update to Council on TransLink Mayor's Council meetings. Councillor Allison Morse.
Oh, that's me. We had a very short public meeting on December the 3rd and won't be meeting again until January. The major item of business on December the 3rd was the election of the chair and the vice chair for next year. And Jonathan Cote was reelected as chair, and Mayor Jack Froese was reelected as vice chair by acclamation, basically. And there was a good report from the CEO, Kevin Quinn, on ridership update, and ridership is coming back. And their actions on COVID. And I think that's basically, and then just a regular reporting on the Broadway subway agreement. Like Vancouver is committed to do certain things, and this is the report on what they've done so far and where it was at. And interestingly enough, we were in town the other day and we drove down Broadway from Alma all the way through to just below VGH to go to Toys R Us. And there was quite, no parking anywhere along Broadway with a subway, but it didn't seem to be bothering traffic. We didn't get stuck a lot or anything. So it was interesting to see where the stations are going to be. So that's it.
All right, thank you, Allison. And that brings us to 11:6, which is moved to a closed council meeting. The recommendation is the council move to a closed council meeting immediately following the regular council meeting to discuss items pursuant to section 90-1 of the community charter. Have you got the numbers in there, Hope? Or is it just, I've just got the XXX, but I think it's AEGJK. Okay, thank you. And of the community charter. And you've moved that, Rob? I'll second it. All in favor? Aye. All right, Allison, you're in favor, I'm sure. And we're going to move on to the information items, and we'll go into question period. Do we have anybody out there that I don't see anybody? And on that happy note, we will go to adjournment.
Can I just ask, do we have a separate Zoom address for?
Yeah, I don't see one.
Not today. We'll just.
Okay, we're
use the same
staying
one.
with this. Okay,
Okay,
thank you very much. Thank you, Hope.
Do we get 2 minutes to stretch our legs?